Hello, welcome to REBT Works. I am Dr. Steve Johnson, and let's jump into the topic, which today is beliefs, inferences, and truth in REBT. What does it mean? The question is, in REBT, are beliefs true or false? Are inferences true or false? Does REBT even have a position on this? There seems to be a lot of confusion around this. And in fact, I've actually read some criticisms of REBT and saying that it is inconsistent on the nature of truth and relationship to beliefs and inferences, which would be a tremendously important topic, especially when you're interacting with clients. So today, let me do my best to try to clarify this. Let's begin by saying that the word belief can be confusing for some people because in different disciplines, it means something different, or even in everyday English, the word believe is used in different ways. Let's just consider the following sentences or statements. I believe you don't like me. Second, I believe in God. Third, I believe I'm going to have another drink. And then fourth, I believe you are a terrible person. Each sentence contains the word believe, representing a belief, but it means something different in each of those sentences. In REBT, only one of those statements is considered to be a belief, and it is viewed as potentially contributing to dysfunctional emotions and or behaviors. That sentence would be, I believe you are a terrible person. I'm going to get back to that one in just a few minutes, why REBT takes that position. People also ask whether a belief is true or false. In some uses of the word believe, it makes sense to ask about truth of a belief. In other uses, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So let's try to sort this out so that you and your therapy as an REBT practitioner, you don't confuse the client or even yourself on this particular matter. And here, the theories of truth in philosophy can be really helpful in navigating through this discussion. In philosophy, there are generally three theories about what truth is that help us navigate through this confusion. The first theory of truth, and probably the oldest theory, is what's called the correspondence theory. And in the correspondence theory, if a statement or proposition corresponds to kind of an external state of affairs, an event or a situation, then it is true. So for example, if I say it is raining, then and I go outside and I feel water coming down on me, right? Under certain circumstances, in most circumstances, it would be raining. And so that sentence that I uttered, it is raining, would be a true statement because the sentence corresponds to some external event or state of affairs. The second theory of truth is called the coherence theory. Not everything is kind of like or is of the nature of it is raining. In the coherence theory, something or a proposition or statement is considered to be true if the statement is coherent with other statements in a set of statements. Now, this is not as common as in the correspondence theory. This coherence theory applies to different kinds of phenomena. And we see this more at play in, for example, in geometric proofs. So you all, probably took geometry in high school or something, and you did proofs in geometry, and you would test, you would start out with axioms and theorems whatsoever. But if the statements within your in your proof were contradictory, then at least one of those statements would not be true because it didn't cohere, right? So That's also true in logic. If in a logical proof, we have one statement that says P and the other one says not P, then there's a contradiction. And so it's not true, right? So truth would mean that your proposition is coherent with other propositions in a set of statements, okay? And so maybe not as common as the correspondence. Correspondence theory is kind of at play in everyday life. But coherence is tremendously important when we're looking at mathematics and logic, etc. And as I said, for another reason, we have the coherence theory. Generally, in the correspondence theory, we're talking about entities that exist. But in geometry and logic, it wouldn't make sense to talk about correspondence, because as these disciplines admit, the concepts within the disciplines, again, geometry, logic, etc., are abstract. They're not real. They're not existing entities. In fact, when you took geometry years ago, probably, they were very clear that point, a line, and a plane are concepts. They're abstract. They're not talking about things that exist in reality. The same thing in logic. There's a logical rule called modus ponens that says if P, then Q. Well, P doesn't exist, Q doesn't exist, they're going to represent something. So it's very abstract, okay? And so these are talking about abstract entities, not existing entities. The third theory of truth is called the pragmatic theory of truth, as established by William James. In this theory of truth, which is a tremendously important one, the truth of a statement is the consequences that one experiences in holding that statement or acting upon that statement. So for example, if I say this rock is hard, there are certain consequences that might occur. If I take the rock and hit myself on the head, there are consequences, right? There's a big bump, I get a concussion, those kinds of things. If I say I am a loser, there are consequences of believing in that statement. I might not try to do certain kinds of things because I think I'm just going to fail at them, right? So the rock is hard, I'm a loser, are maybe pragmatically true. For example, if I say the feather is hard and I hit my head with the feather or stroke my head with a feather, it's not hard. So the consequences would show that that statement is false. So we've got three theories of truth. They look at kind of different things. Now let's kind of, so we know then for any given statement, we need to see what theory kind of best describes the test of the truthfulness of the statement, okay, or of the belief. So all three theories may not be applicable to every situation. Perhaps one or two of the theories would be applicable, so some combination of those theories would help us grasp the truth. So we have to see kind of what in the situation, what test of truth would be applicable to that situation. So for example, if I go back to someone uttering "it is raining," well, the correspondence theory is clearly applicable here, because if I walk outside and I experience water falling from the skies, then that statement corresponds, "it is raining," corresponds to some external state of affairs. So the correspondence theory would account for that kind of truth. But pragmatically, there are consequences for believing it is raining. The consequence of believing that it is raining is that when I step outside, I get wet, right? And it's all, I'm soaking wet. But the consequence, if I walk outside and I don't get wet, then we know that that is true. So that statement, the correspondence theory and the pragmatic theory would help us navigate through that. Now, the coherence theory really wouldn't apply too much here unless I said, it is raining and it's not raining. Well, wait a minute. Those are contradictory within that set of statements. So the coherence is off. It's not true in a coherent sense, right? So how does all of this apply to REBT? Okay, well, here we're going to make some distinctions. REBT, when it talks about cognitions, talks about at least two kinds of cognitions. Cognitions are just thoughts, right? And REBT distinguishes inference as one form of cognition and beliefs as another form of cognition. REBT stipulatively defines inferences as attributing meaning to a state of affairs, a situation, or an event. Or you can think of it as the inferences are interpretations of situations or events. And REBT would say that inferences are either true or false, okay? That's the stipulative definition. Stipulative definitions are definitions that we say, we are going to use this term in this way. And everybody can stipulate, different domains stipulate definitions to words. It is perfectly legitimate to do that if you make your stipulation very clear so people will know how you're using the term. Well, REBT also has a stipulative definition for the word belief. This is a proposition or a statement, cognition that one holds, and beliefs are those kinds of cognitions that don't give meaning or are not interpretations of situations or events, but they evaluate those situations or events, okay? Giving meaning to something and evaluating it are two entirely different things, okay? So evaluating it might be, this is good, this is bad, this is useful, this is not useful, those kinds of evaluations. When REBT talks about beliefs, they say that beliefs are neither true nor false, but rather they're helpful or unhelpful, okay? In what way? They are helpful or unhelpful to the client or to any of us in terms of, do holding those beliefs help us attain life goals? And those goals could be personal, professional, spiritual, social, educational goals, whatever those goals are. Does that belief help you attain those goals? And they either help you or they don't help you. So they're not true or false, but they're helpful or unhelpful, okay? In the common sense way of talking about true and false. So let's look at REBT's distinction in light of those three theories of truth, okay? So as the word inference is used in REBT, and we say that in REBT that inferences are true, this means in REBT that they are true in the correspondence and the coherence theories, according to this correspondence and coherence theory. So for example, I failed the exam. Well, that is true in terms of the correspondence theory. If I took the exam and I get a failing grade, then I failed the exam. So my statement would correspond to the actual state of affairs. So it is true according to the correspondence. We could also come up with an example in a coherent sense too, right? So inferences are true or false in that sense. So as the word belief is used in REBT, is it true or false? Well, it depends. REBT has stipulated that kind of in the correspondence and coherence sense that inferences are true, that beliefs are not true. But they are true in a pragmatic sense, okay? But remember what that pragmatic sense means. Philosophically, beliefs are true according to that correspondence theory because there are consequences to holding that belief. If I believe that I am a failure, there are consequences for that. So it may not be, of course, true in a correspondence or a coherence sense, but it is true in a pragmatic sense. So while REBT Stipulative says that beliefs are neither true or false. They're talking about the correspondence and coherence sense. But when it comes to the pragmatic sense of the three theories, then beliefs would be true in terms of the consequences, okay? But just knowing that in REBT that these words are going to be used stipulatively in these definitions makes sense and can help you guide your way through that. So when REBT is criticized by some people as lacking a theory of truth, that's simply not true. It is, it's incorrect because REBT actually embraces all three theories and in terms of truth. It stipulates that inferences are true or false. It stipulates that beliefs are not true or false, but they are if we use it if we understand it in the coherent sense, in the pragmatic sense of the three theories. So it's important to realize that REBT is stipulating these different definitions that they will mean this. But if we look at them in the larger, broader philosophical sense in terms of those three theories, then REBT really displays, exemplifies, and uses all three theories. I hope that helps, and that people then realize that actually REBT is very comprehensive in looking at truthfulness when we're looking at things. It is just used, it's developed some stipulative definitions, which is perfectly right for any discipline to do. Thank you very much, and please look forward to future REBT works presentations. And I do post these on YouTube. And so you can always go to REBT Education and Training on YouTube and just click subscribe, and you will get all the future presentations. Thank you so much, and have a great day.